Hi guys, Steve Woody here. I wanted to do a quick video today. It's the 25th of August, and the reason for this video is because of the cyber attack which is in the news today. We can see by looking on the BBC website that the Sony PlayStation network has been shut down due to what's called a DDoS attack. This is something which I mentioned to my friends and family clients yesterday because my server came under the same attack. Now, a DDoS, or a distributed denial of service attack, is, in a nutshell, it's where somebody just emulates fake traffic and bombards your website. This is very similar to what is called a brute force attack, in a sense of, with a brute force attack, somebody will have access to your logging and they will use a combination through a database of usernames and passwords until they gain access, and they're simulating lots and lots of traffic and lots of requests on your server. What this can do is this can in turn use up all the resources and crash the server. So what I'm going to talk about here is two things: one, how to protect yourself, and two, how to not prevent, but how to make sure you have fail safes in place, because it is impossible to be 100% protected. I don't care who makes a promise to you. The only reason an antivirus exists in this world was because the virus was first created. You have a virus and then you have an antivirus. Okay, it's not the other way around. So you must be hacked before you can prevent being hacked, if that makes sense. Okay, so you will always have the opportunity to be hacked. Someone out there can hack into you. It's just whether you're big enough of a target, whether you're exposed enough, whether there's enough reason for someone to do it. And what I'm giving you here is an opportunity to, one, prevent yourself from some of the basic attacks. So some of the things that people do, we can protect ourselves against that. We've got a duty of care to have a level of security. You know, you wouldn't go to sleep at night with your front door open, you close it and you have a lock on your door for a reason. Someone could still kick that door in should they want to, but the whole purpose here is that we at least have a method or a measure in place, and what we're going to do now is the same thing. The second thing is, and I'm going to use this analogy again, is that if someone does break into your house, you want to make sure you're insured. You want to make sure that your contents are protected. Same on your website, you want to make sure you have a backup. Because if someone breaks into your website and corrupts, steals, deletes, manipulates, whatever they do to your files and your things on your website, you want to make sure you can get back as soon as possible. Okay, being hacked is one thing. Being hacked and then recovering with minimal downtime, minimal disruption, that's quite another story. All right, and a lot of people don't offer that service. So what I tend to do with my clients is ensure, and this is what happened yesterday. Two of my clients were hacked. Within less than 5 minutes of the hack happening, we had stopped the attack, and we had also recovered all the files, and we had put backups in place to ensure that everything was back to how it should be. So it's really, really important that you have that backup as a fail-safe. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you when we go into, I've got a brand new installation of WordPress that I've created just for this version, for this video. We're going to add two plugins. Now, appreciate this is only for WordPress. If you have another system, then you have to find out what works for you, but I only work with WordPress installations. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have back WP up. Now, there's lots of other versions you can use. There's Backup Buddy, there's lots of other different backup tools, but I use back WP up. As you can see, it's got a rating of 516 ratings, 4.5 stars. We're going to install this. What I would say is, when you have a backup software on your computer, test it, back it up, and then restore it. Because there's no point in having a backup if the backups are corrupt. And some of these really cheap, nasty, free plugins, they may back your site up, but when you come to reactivate it and it doesn't work, you just don't want that headache. So use this one because I use it, I know it works, or use a premium one like Backup Buddy. So here we have this, it's installed, as we can see on the dashboard. If we click dashboard on the left hand side, it's going to give us the option to download our backup. Now, what I would say to you here, and this is really important, is that when you do backup, don't back up to your server. Okay, if I say add new job, and we can choose a backup here, I would tend to have two schedules running. So when I click on schedules, I would tend to run two. And what I would do with these, and we're going to use this with maybe with WordPress cron, is I'd have one on a weekly basis and one on a monthly basis. Okay, and what I would do is I would set up your weekly to be your database only. So we don't need a file backup, we don't need a plugin list, just a database backup, and schedule that to run every week. Okay, and what I would do is come down and maybe choose Dropbox. You can use Amazon S3, you can use other things as well, or you can back up somewhere else, but I would choose Dropbox purely for the fact that when you back up, you do not want it to be on your server, because if your server goes down, your backup goes down. Okay, so you need to make sure that your backup goes somewhere else apart from your server. So I would back one up now, schedule one to go to Dropbox. Once you've clicked Dropbox, it becomes here. You can activate Dropbox, and then I would schedule a second one, which is the database and the files. Okay, if you want to take a plugin list as well, you can. You can take anything you want, but at the moment, your files and your database are your two main important ones. Okay, schedule that, back up. Do that now. The second plugin that I'm going to get you to look at is one called iThemes. Now, it used to be called Better WP Security. It's renamed, and you can see here, iTheme Security, formerly Better WP Security. This has a rating now of 3,339 ratings. We're going to install this. You may use Wordfence. There's other ones you can use. I personally use this. I like this. It's up to you. But I'd make sure that you have this. When you install this plugin, and I'm talking from experience because I've done this, if you alter the settings of this plugin and you don't know what you're doing, you can lock yourself out and you can corrupt your website. I've done this. Okay, please back up first. When you have this installed, if you have other plugins, if you have a theme, if you have things on your site already, you want to make sure this does not conflict. So take a backup first and then install this. If you're in doubt, contact me and we should look at how we can create a test environment. Test this first before we do it on a live site. But what we're going to see is wherever we go here, we're going to see that this has a banner here that says secure your site now. We're simply going to click on that and it's going to take us and give us some first steps. Look, number one, make a backup. Number two, allow file updates. So two core files here, wp-config and htaccess, which WordPress needs to access. We're just going to allow this plugin to be able to talk to those and to update them automatically. We're going to do one-click secure, so we're going to do some basic suggestions here to secure the site. We've already made a backup. If you want to improve, you can. This will then take us to our dashboard. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to whitelist our IP. So our IP address. Okay, if you are at a home address using your home Wi-Fi, you want to make sure that your IP is safe and that it's whitelisted. You hear about blacklisting bad IP address. You can also whitelist good ones so you do not accidentally lock yourself out. Again, if you lock yourself out, it can become quite difficult to gain access. This is designed to stop people getting access. So if you lock yourself out, okay, you got to make sure that you have the opportunity to get back in. If you do, it's not the end of the world. Contact me or contact your hosting provider. They can get you access, but it's just another step you don't want to do. So just whitelist first. Then as we scroll down, we can see here it says security status. Now we can see we're not scheduling any backups. So we can fix that, or we can do that through, as we said, using back WP up, and then that will disappear. The next thing we need to do is malware. So we're going to click fix it to scan for malware. And what will happen is it will send us here to the part of the site. We can see here on the right of all these options, this has taken us directly to this point. We're going to enable malware, and this tells us that we need to go to a website called virustotal.com. Now if you go here, you can get a free account and you can visit the link here that says how to get your API key. When you visit this link, you get your API key, you post that in here and you click save. Once you've done that, that will then update and it will then start scanning for malware. As you can appreciate, I've not done that here. When you do that, that will then disappear. Another program you can use is Securi. Securi is a fantastic company, and if you go to their homepage and you scroll down, it's sucuri.net. You can type in your website here, you can scan, and it will perform a malware and security scan free of charge. If you have any problems and need to fix it, it will then charge you, but it will tell you if you're infected. So I recommend that you use that to test, just to make sure your website is clean. Then we're going to come down to the medium priorities, things that you need to look at. To give you an idea here, going back to what we were saying about Sony being attacked, I'm going to show you, this is my WordPress installation. And what we can see here is that there has been a considerable amount of attacks, and this has been since yesterday. And I'm just going to go back to the next page so that we can see here. This is a brute force attack that I was talking about. And what has happened here is you can see consistently at intervals. I mean, this has happened at 457, 0.26, 0.28, 0.29. You can see this is happening almost immediately. Different IP addresses. Okay, and this is what a brute force attack is. So this is using the username admin, and it is trying to attack and to access my website. So if I had a user called admin, what this would automatically do is say, okay, that works. Now it has to guess the password. Okay, and you can do that by having login attempts. So after a certain amount of login attempts, it will block that IP address. And if that IP address continues, it will then block it indefinitely. Okay, if a user tries to access my site with the username admin, it doesn't even give them a chance. It blocks them automatically because it knows that I would never do that. So please make sure, one, you do not have the username admin, and two, through iThemes, you set this up, which we're going to do now. This is just to show you how real this is. As you can see, there's 12,000 entries here. I've had over 250,000, 250,000 brute force attacks on my server in the last 24 hours. This is a real threat that happens on a consistent basis because of the size of my servers. I'm protected enough to know that they won't get through. Occasionally they may, if the security is not. If I have a client who has the username admin, now if I'm building a website, they won't. But if I'm just providing hosting and they have their own sites and they're responsible for it, there's the possibility. So if that happens, there's a possibility they may get hacked, which is why I say make sure you have a backup and make sure you have a hosting company that can protect you from this. So going back to the plugin I was talking about, if you have admin, this will pop up here and say, it will be red and it will say fix this now. Okay. The second thing to fix is your user ID. So in a database table, you have a prefix of ID1, and this is something else which the a script will automatically search for. So we're just going to give it a different name. It will then tell us we need to log back in. Now for the purpose of this demo, I'm just using a username of root. But what we'll see here is that when we go back into the plugin, this will now have updated, okay, and this will not now be an option. This is telling us that we need to consider turning on 404 protection. So what we're going to do here to turn this on, what we need to first do is we need to make sure our permalinks in WordPress are set. Now because it's a fresh installation, I haven't set my permalinks. So this is just to make sure the name of the page, if it's default, it goes to this random number. We want to give it a post name so that at least it has something to go to. So if I now come back to my dashboard and I choose this option now where it says consider turning on 404 protection, okay, here it gives me the option now to turn on 404 detection. So it allows me here, it says about the lockouts, what will happen. So number of lockouts before permanently banning, 3. How long the lockouts will be remembered for. Okay, what the message will be when you get that error. So what this is going to do is, this is going to tell you that if you have, if someone hits a 404 error, okay, and this is a continuous 3, if it happens 3 times, they'll be locked out for 5 minutes. Okay, if this happens, if they have 20 errors, then that's it. It will Oh, sorry. This is, if you have 20 errors, it will lock you out for 5 minutes. Okay. Now, if something's brute force attacking you, this will happen. What we can do is ignore. We don't want to ignore images and things because sometimes we do have broken links on our site. So once that's done, we're going to save this. We're going to go back to our dashboard and look at the next section. Now there's some things here you don't need to do. You don't need to go through and do everything on a site, and if you do, you will probably break your site. So again, be careful. Things here like your WordPress dashboard is available 24/7. Well, I like it to be available 24/7 because I access it a lot, so I'm going to leave that. Your website is not looking for change files. Now I love this because what this basically does is if you acknowledge this file change detection, what this will do is if there is a file change, it will email you to the admin and it will let you know. So if you get an email saying 1 or 2 files has changed and you've edited something, then that's fine. If you get an email through saying 4,000 files have been updated, you know there's a problem. And this is a great way to know straight away if you've been attacked, if something is out of the ordinary. So just to set that up. I like to also change the lockout message here. So where it comes up and it just says error, I think that looks a bit, so maybe customize this. Maybe you've been locked out. This is HTML, so you want to put a new line in. Something like that. It just makes it look a bit more personalized, and then we can also, if we need to, we can leave the our main website on here. Should we want to, if we want people to contact us. Again, we don't have to do that. We can leave a link to that, but we could put a contact form in here, something like that, if we want people to contact us. But chances are, if it is because of a brute force attack, you don't want to give people access to start spamming you and start, don't put an email address in there where, people can contact you and a robot or a spam bot can then exploit that from you. So yeah, just something so they know what's happened. They can then get in contact with you should they need to. Something else we're going to look at here. So it's using a default address. So we can look at changing this. So instead of going to wp-login, we can change this slug here. You can't use login admin dashboard because they're what WordPress uses, but you can use something else. You can even just take the dash out of it. Just makes it a little bit more secure. And we can change that. Going back to the dashboard again, and as we can see, there's a few more things here. We're not too worried about the other things on here. I'm going to leave them at the moment. But one of the things that I do want to do is I want to change my table prefix. Now this could break some plugins, but what you'll notice is that the table prefix for WordPress is WP_. That means in a database, everything starts with WP_. We're going to change that so that now when we look, we can see that ours it's no longer WP, it's now something different, and it's updated that. So if I go back to look at it, we can see that's gone. Rather than WP_ in our database, it will now be a string of letters that's been created. So they're the basic things that you can do to secure your site. I would also suggest running through a CDN. I use Cloudflare myself. So if you go to cloudflare.com or speak to myself, then we can use that for you. That's just another way to protect yourself against things like a DDoS attack. Remember, back up your website first. Make sure your website is backed up. Make sure you add this level of security. And please remember that no matter what you do on your website is only going to be as secure as your host. If you are on a host that goes down or becomes infected or compromised, your website will go down. Okay, you cannot build a house on quicksand and expect it to stand up. You need strong foundations. The house will only be as strong as the foundations. So your hosting being your foundations, make sure that it can support your website. Okay, strong website, strong hosting, backup, please.